Hello YouTube. Hello YouTube. Another speed lab. Miguel's been popular lately, gotta be honest. I remember like doing 3 of them already. This is the 3rd Miguel speed lab, I think. Miguel's cool though. I like Miguel. Okay, let's do Alisa. So this matchup, of course, when you go up against Alisa, one of the big things you have to notice in the matchup is how good your moves are against her movement. Her movement is really good. Like this backdash is insane. Alright? Look at this backdash. Insane backdash. And of course, Miguel's moves usually don't have a lot of reach. So it's very easy for the Alisa player to make things swift. So especially with Miguel, have to be careful with your spacing, because your down forward 1 most likely can whiff. The range isn't, that good. It's good, but it's not that good against Alisa. Say with other moves, like maybe down forward 3 can be decent sometimes. But even this can whiff with a very simple backdash. I'm not even talking about back 1, right? This has no range anyway. Magic 4 has decent range, but even this can whiff, so Miguel's range issues are basically amplified against Alisa, more or less. And they're like very specific stuff, I'm sure. Like I haven't tested this myself since I don't play Miguel. But I'm pretty sure there's very specific stuff that you have to like keep in consideration. Like after down back 3, for example, your situation against the average character might be very good. But maybe against Alisa, she can backdash your down forward 1. Like something like that, I haven't really tested. But that's something a Miguel player should test. I'm just saying it for you guys to know about it, and if anything, you guys test it. Okay. Now let's talk about Alisa though. So Alisa in general, very movement heavy character, if you play her correctly. But she can also be very cheesy. As most waifus, I'm gonna be honest. She can be very cheesy. So down 3, very annoying move, of course. But it is slow. One thing about down 3 is that if you get used to it a lot, you can actually duck, react to it like this, and launch it, right? This is always launch punishable. There's some ranges when the high will hit you and counter hit you, but 90% of the time you launch this. So you can either hop kick it, which I guess is better, or while standing 2, into whatever combo. Let's talk about the situation when you don't block it, of course. It's launch punishable, we know that. So after this, Alisa player has the option to either continue with strings like this one. Not that one. I wanted this one. It might be the rocket as well, but the rocket's nothing. This works on like bad connections. This is a high. The rocket's a high. So this is the most common one. Right? As I said, you can still launch him. This will interrupt you on very rare occasions. But why they do this is because you stop moving or doing anything at all after down 3. They're basically telling you to freeze up or duck. And of course, it is duckable. Right? You can duck this and launch it. But that's the purpose of this move. It will make you duck, more or less. And then Alisa players have this mid, which they can mix you up with. I think they usually use that one. Right? Now showcase it. There we go. Which is a launcher, and it's safe. The one thing you can do against it is if you play like a very good sidestep character, sometimes you can step it, but Miguel, for example, gets caught just like that. Most of the time, try a backdash, and sometimes it can whip. But even that is sometimes. Very, very rare. Let me try the other side real quick. Yeah, so other side, even Miguel can step it. Because you're forced crouch, you can only sidestep one side, but sidestep right works really well against this. But make sure to sidewalk. If you sidestep, this can happen. But yeah, if you're on P1, good luck. But if you do sidestep on P2, you remember the high will still hit you. Like, the reward is gonna be better, but the high will still hit you there. But now let's talk about when you're frozen. Can you try sidestep right on P1? No, you cannot, because you are forced crouch. You cannot sidestep because you are forced crouch. That's why I changed sides. Okay, the next thing Alisa players like to do is to mix you up with full crouch after down 3. Something like this. You're frozen because of the high, because of the mid. Then they stay full crouch like that and mix you up with this, which is a very good low, right? Of course, one thing you can do is backdash into a duck, which works really well, especially if you react to them stopping. But you cannot step it very reliably. You really cannot. You guys see the tracking of the second low? It's insane. Of course you can just sidestep and duck, but then this happens. The punish is very unreliable. Look at that. GG Corpello. So hard to fuzzy? Yeah, it's very hard to fuzzy. And of course they can mix it up with a full crouch 1+2. This one right here. Right? So if you do backdash and duck, this will hit you. But there is a way to do a very fast fuzzy, but the frames are very close. Most of the time it will hit you. One thing we can hope for is that the Alisa player messes up the mid mix-up, and that's the slow version, which is 28, right here. If they do the fast version, which is 20, very hard to fuzzy. Like this, and this, basically the same. But if they fuck up even a little bit, it becomes way slower. So yeah. So that's usually what happens. Of course they can do other stuff like down 4 after it, right? Stuff like that. But they're basically counting on you freezing because of this option that they're doing, or this option that they're doing. They're counting on you freeze. But of course the best thing you can do against down 3, one, of course you can react to it and launch it. You can also step it to the right side. It's also steppable to the left, but it has more tracking there. Like that. But reacting is like the best thing, because it's 23 frames. Sometimes you can't react to it, like I don't blame anyone who can't react to this. It's not that easy, especially when the connection's not that good. But that's usually the one thing I want to do. And that's like down 3, the most annoying move. Alisa players also like to do power crush. What's a power crush? I forgot the input. As a keep out tool, the high power crush. Back forward 2, back forward 1 maybe. Forward back. The high one. So Alisa has 2 power crushes. This is one of them. Of course this can be used as a keep out move as well, it's really fast. The other one's a high. I think it's this one, right? Yep, there you go. I found it. Back forward 2. And this power crush can be used as well, which is a million range. It has a lot of range. Fast power crush, 16 frames. It can come out slower, but it's pretty fast. It's high, it's safe. So you have to be very careful when it comes to this keep out, especially when you have like low health and you're trying to go in and you know, get some damage off so you can come back. The Alisa player might just, you know, throw this out. Because it's fairly safe to throw out. Or throw this out. Both of them can be a keep out option. Like this is more common than the other one. But of course, they can also throw out down forward too. So let's talk about down forward 2 now. This is a keep out move, at least the players have. If you want to go close, down forward 2 just checks you. This is like a generic down forward 2, more or less. The only difference is that it's 1 frame slower, so it's 16. And I think its minus frames are a little bit worse than a normal down forward 2. This is minus 9. Most down forward 2s aren't this minus. So it's not as good in that regard. But it still does its job as a, generic down forward 2 keep out with. So it's really good in that regard. You have to be careful about this down forward 2 keep out. If you do bait it, you should be able to whiff punish it. The whiff recovery it has, I think it's a little bit worse than generic down forward 2, maybe 1 frame, 2 frame worse, something like that. But thing is, if you do make it whiff, you should be very ready for it. If you're not, it's fine. Of course, generic down forward 2, you can't always punish it. But still, be ready for it. Does it launch duckers? No, it does not. It's like a generic one. It's not launch duck. If it would be very good because, it's safe. Okay, so be careful of that option. Of course, they can just throw it out after some frames as well, like 1-1 down forward 2. That can work. Try to mash. This will check you, right? But of course, you can sidestep it to her weak direction, which is sidestep right. Actually, let's talk about the direction you want to step Alisa normally. So this move tracks very well to the left. Maybe not in that situation. There we go. It has slide tracking to the left. Like after 1-1, on hit, if you do a down forward 2, sidestep left, gets clipped more or less. There you go. Sidewalk left, my bad. So it has slide tracking to the left. And normally you want to sidestep Alisa to the right. Anyway. So this is a little bit more consistent. Although that kind of stuff can happen as well. Saw that? See that? Generic down forward 2s in general have very weird tracking. But sidestep right, or sidewalk right, is the way you want to go most of the time. Guess Alisa. Like that goes for down forward 2. And down forward 1. Like down forward 1 is tracking to the left, like that. But nothing there. Sidestep right is very good. Like there are some exceptions, like most exceptions to sidesteps are lows, like down back 3. Which is, I think, Alisa's best low. Sidestep right, this will clip you. Sidestep left, this will still clip you. You can walk it to the left, but some other stuff will clip you, It's not her weak side. Yeah, don't quote me exactly. If you do sidestep right duck, this will beat this as well, and will avoid a lot of options. So it's pretty good in that regard. But of course the Alisa player can really adjust a lot of things she's doing to avoid that. And of course she has a very good homing move in Magic 4. So if you try to sidestep and not block it properly, you will get hit. Not to mention if you sidestep button, right? So be very careful when it comes to that. This move is amazing. And the most common time this is used is after this. This right here. If people try to step, bomb, right? You press, counter it. Very common. And if you do a sidestep duck, you sidestep it out, it'll still hit you. The one thing you can do is to do the meaniest of steps, but that step basically is non-existent. That step won't do anything. So you're kind of forced to duck there if you want a reward. If you don't want a reward, just hold back, block it. Go back to neutral, more or less. She also has back 3, which is an amazing homing move. I think back 3 is a little bit overlooked most of the time when speaking about Alisa. Because this move It's a safe mid. 20 frame homing mid. That's only -8, right? Unpunishable. If you do sidestep right duck, it will beat it, like any kind of thing. If you sidestep too long or sidewalk, it will beat it. And it has a mind game on block because of the pushback. So what this pushback does, let's say you block this and you want to get close and do a down forward 1. Too bad. You don't have the frames for it. That pushback creates a mind game situation. That's why this is so strong. That pushback that it has makes it strong. So you either want to check him and risk getting counter it, or check him with something like very long range. Right? Very, very long range. But that means the Alisa player has enough time to sidestep anything you have. Like this, for example, right? Or, I don't know, back 4. You get what I mean. I didn't recreate it, but if you do something long range, most likely it will be slow. That means the Alisa player will be either sidestep it, backdash it, and punish you for it. So the mind game is very strong with back 3. Very strong. Be very careful when it comes to that, even though not a lot of Alisa players use it. Yes. The Wood use this, the Alisa player, a lot. And it's a very good thing to use. Very good move. Okay. Let's talk about back 4. The back 4. So the way to punish this, it a little bit varies with the character. For example, Kazuya and Mishimas can do a dash electric and it's pretty good. But you have to find your own. So for Miguel, if they just don't do anything, you get this for free, right? Or dash hop kick. That was not a hop kick. Dash hop kick. But then comes the problem of them doing the fly stance, right? You can still do this, like that. But it will like minimize your reward, basically. Stay with down 4-2-1. It will always punish it. But the reward will be less. So it's gonna be up to you. For example, if you do down 4-2 there, you get an actual combo with good damage, right? On a hard read. But down 4, not down 4-2, down back 2. But if they just stay down, the down back 2 will whiff and you'll go back to neutral. Maybe at least they will have a slight advantage. So be very careful when it comes to that. This also works. You can get a juggle after down 4-2-1. You can. Do down 4-2-2. Oh, let me check that. As I said, I don't play Miguel. So, let's check it. Oh, you can. I take back what I said. Do down 4-2-1. So this is an amazing option for Miguel. That's pretty good. So down 4-2-1 is basically your option select there for back 4-4. Like it depends on your character, as I said. Some characters have an option select, some characters don't. Some characters it's harder, some characters it's different. But don't quote me, just told me that it is indeed an option select with pretty good options. Pretty good combos, I mean. So yeah, Miguel players down 4-2-1, really good. And I think it should be the same with Wall Standing 2, right? So let's talk about Wall Standing 2. So Wall Standing 2... Wall Standing 2 is -13, my bad. It's -13, but it can also transition into flying. But if I remember correctly, I think 4-2 is a very good option here for Wall Standing 2. 4-2-1. Yup. So this has a very similar mind game to back 4-4. But instead of being launch punishable, it's -13. So 4-2-1 is very good here. Still get a combo. I think this is the right option to select for Wall Standing 2. Even if they don't do anything, you get a 4-2-1. Yep, that's pretty good. So yeah, be careful about that as well. Dual staying 2. 4-2-1 does work really well. It works really, really well. And what else? Does anything else have that kind of mind game? Oh, this one. Right? Some Alisa players do like to do this, right? The headbutt. So they either finish this, which is minus 14. Damn it, it just became 13. It's very unreliable. It is normally minus 14. Top 14, damn it. The fuck? Okay, do not use your 14 frame punish on this. Normally 14, but very unreliable. There you go. So yeah, use 4-2-1 as Miguel. When it comes to that anyway. Oh shit. How was that move I just did? There you go. But the other option they have is to not finish it, of course. But in here you can do something very simple, which is just react to this. This is a lot of minus, and I mean a lot of minus. If they do just up forward 3, without the finisher, without this, you can react to it very easily and launch it. But just be careful of the follow-up, because I think it attracts steppers very, very easily. Yup. You cannot step this. Oh, is that? Wait. Nah, that's different. I was like, maybe I can get a back turn punish with that, but nope. Yeah, be careful about that. You can't step it, but on block you can punish it. What else? Down back 3 mind game. Very important. So this is her best low. Like this and this. Definitely her best lows. Kimchi, hello. I'm from Georgia. Talk about this mind game. Down back 3 into all staying 4 is a very common one. You can check it with jabs. So 1-2. You can also back 1. It's -1. Right? But 12 frame, it will trade. And you can also have the option to just sidestep it. But be careful of stepping to the right, because it can track you a little bit, depending on the range. Like this. See that? A walk is a little bit more reliable than a step. Thank you for follow, Kimchi. So if you do try to avoid it, you have to walk it. Like that. You can step it sometimes too, depending on range, but if they're very close up like this, it might track you a bit better. So this is one of the options they use. They can also, of course, stick jab, generic down 4, just to stop you from retaliating or doing anything. But then if you start freezing up, you actually respect it, then they start doing the full crouch mix up, right? This is the full crouch mix. Something like this. And look at the tracking. Amazing tracking. You cannot step this. It's very, very good. But of course there are ways to beat it. If you do mash fast mid, you'll beat it. If you do a backdash into a duck, you'll beat the last tank 4 and both the mids. But then you get like mixed up by this backdash duck, right? So be very careful when it comes to this, because the mind game on down back 3 is strong. It's not bad at all. Yeah, Kimchi, PC is the best, 100%. PS5 has more input delay than PS4 and PC. So PC is definitely the best when it comes to that. Okay. What else to talk about? Yeah, 1-1 chainsaw. Let's talk about chainsaw. The dreaded chainsaw stance. So 1-1 is like the most common ways Asuka player, not Asuka, Alisa player will go into chainsaw. So you get punished by 1-1 like this. They go in chainsaw, now we're in the mix. So let's see the options Alisa has. 1-1 chainsaw, this mid. This is one of the options she has. And under no circumstances, press there. If you block this, do not press. You're -8. That's a lot of minus frames. Do not press there. So at least a player can do this, can do this, can do this again. To be honest, most likely they won't do that again because they'll be beaten by some moves, but they can do this, they can do this, they can check you with a lot of stuff basically. So do not press in -8 situation there. What you can do against that, well, you have a few options actually. Against this you can magic 4, or just counter it in general like a back 1, or sidestep it. But make sure to sidestep to the left. So normally, I was talking about Alisa, you sidestep to the right, but chainsaw stance is an exception. You sidestep chainsaw stance to the left. Because some moves will track you. I don't think if this one will, like this one won't, it's bad tracking. Damn, it just tracked me. But yeah, some moves will track you better to the right than to the left. But now let's talk about the other options. Let's talk about this. So this also gets beaten by sidewalk left. If you sidestep, this will track you a little bit. And sidestep right, when I was talking about sidestep right being a little bit iffy, this is one of the moves that track you. So you want to go to the left. Make sure to sidewalk, do not sidestep. This will happen if you sidestep. Of course it's a low, you have to guess it, and if you duck it, it's -12. So those two options both get beaten by sidewalk left, which is pretty good without having to guess, right? It's pretty good. But now the Alisa player has options. Like back 2. You do sidewalk left all the time. They actually have an option that tracks both sides. Look, tracking, and submit. And not only that, it has a follow-up, like that one. 33 damage, both sides. And if you do block it, it's safe. But not only is it safe, it's -3. Which is like the best kind of safe. -3. What can you do about this? The options you have against this is a magic 4, back 1, and to trade with 14 framers, I think, right? It should anyway. Either 13 or 14, right? I think I messed up. I was not mashing fast enough. Yep, it'll trade with 13. There we go. So either 11 or 12 frame moves will beat that. And it will also beat this right here. If you have a 12 frame mid, it will beat all options. But of course, if they're highs, they won't work. But then the Alisa player has other options as well, because you know, chainsaw. This is a pure frame trap. It tracks to one side. You can also step this to the left like this. But this is a pure frame trap. So if you do press, this will beat you. And that's a lot of damage. She gets guaranteed stuff after that as well. She can also do something like forward 1 to check you. You can also check steps, like that one. Like, it's not that bad. Get clipped a little bit, but it does check it. You can sidestep to the right, but you do not want to go to the right. And it's plus on block. So be very careful when it comes to that. And of course, if you press, you just get hit for free. So be very careful when it comes to that. Be very, very careful. 1-1 and chainsaw. And that works in the same way as while staying 1-2. The only difference is one more frame. If you guys pay attention, this is +5. This is +6. So this into chainsaw is a bit stronger. Actually, I would say it's a lot stronger because 12 frame mids don't work anymore. So let's do this into back 2. I'm gonna do a magic 4, and this trades. So if you do a 12 frame mid, that will trade, and most likely the Alisa player will get the launcher while you get a little poke. So this is much stronger than the 1-1 because of that 1 frame. You have to do 11 frame moves there, like a back 1, for example. But since that's a high, that won't beat Chainsaw down 1, this one. Unlike in the 1-1 situation, where a 12 frame mid would beat anything. But for Miguel, he really doesn't have that luxury. You have to like guess with back 1, magic 4, or sidestep left. Or of course, play it safe and block. You can also do that. Okay, what else? This of course is very annoying. If they start to mix their timing, yeah, if they start to mix their timing, it gets very hard. Very, very hard. That's why sometimes you have to press. Like a 12 frame mid is pretty good. It will get her out to chainsaw and stuff like that. Okay, well, let's talk about it. That's mostly about the chainsaw and how to deal with it again after like stance transition, like this one or this one. Usually, if they're in chainsaw, you have to sidestep to the left. But if they're like far away, of course they can just do stuff like this, right? So be very careful when it comes to that. You can step this both directions, if I remember correctly, right? And backdash, do this. Fuck, messed up. Maybe not both directions. Damn, it has very good tracking. Like, I've stepped this before, like that, yeah. So I think it is good tracking if you mistime your step. There you go. That was correct, you can step both directions, but be careful of when you step it. Because that's very common for the Alisa player to just come in and do that in long range. So be very careful when it comes to that as well. Oh guys, 1 second, someone's calling me. Okay, let's get back to it. So now let's talk about the long range situation without the chainsaw. Talk about the chainsaw, right? Like that's pretty common there. Pretty common. But without the chainsaw in this kind of situation, Alisa players actually like to do one of two things. One is wall running, 2, this one right here, which is very fast. It's a high. I think it guarantees 4 to 1+2, this one right here. So decent damage. And let me see if I remember correctly. It is plus. It's +5. Of course, the one weakness, very obvious weakness it has, it's a high. You can duck it. But the little non-obvious weakness it has is the sidestep direction. So this actually has slight tracking to the right, but very slight. And depends on how the Alisa player uses it. Right? But usually this can be stepped more than one side basically. Both sides work more or less. But there's one very big reason to not sidestep on the one side but sidestep on the other one, which is this one, this move right here. While running 3-4. So this move is the second one Alisa players like to use when there's a lot of range. This move tracks really well to one side. And depends on the... I'm just making it work there. There we go. There we go. You can sometimes sidewalk it, like this, but I just made it whiff. But it has very good tracking. And it made it whiff there. To one side, which is sidestep right. It's still possible to sidewalk sometimes, as you guys can see. But more or less, it will hit you. Like that. It's way more consistent to sidestep that to the left. Like that. Just make sure to keep sidewalking. If you don't, the second one will clip you. Oh, damn. So that's one of the reasons when Alisa is a little bit far away, like this range. Since they can use this or this, sidestep left is better than sidestep right. Even though in the neutral you do want to sidestep to the right. Like Miguel's movement ain't that bad. And he can still sidestep some things in the direction that, you know, Alisa should be able to clip them. Sometimes it can happen. But most of the time you still want to go left, because that's the most consistent way to like avoid this, for example. Or avoid this and punish both of them. But the Alisa player can change their timing and, you know, realign depending on how you do it. The good Alisa player will know how to do that. Okay. Well, let's talk about Alisa. I mean, some Alisa players like to do this as well, but not a lot. Down for 3-3 mind game. This reminds me of Leroy's 3-3. Is it 3-3? It reminds me of that mind game, basically. So it's -9, it has a low extension. If you do always low parry it, at least the player can mind game you, but it's not that good because it's -9. But I'm just telling you guys so you know, this exists. Not a lot of Alisa players do this. I actually saw maybe one Alisa player do it sometimes, but very rare. Okay. So I talked about this into 1. I talked about 4. Be careful about stepping Alisa in general because of this move. Like this is a panic tool she has basically. If you do a lot of down forward ones, the Alisa player might just decide to do a 4 and you're gonna get counter hit. So be very careful when it comes to this move. What else? So this is a panic move she has as well, of course. This has tracking, like really good tracking. I think it's a tracking move in general. No, it's not. But it's very good tracking. As you guys can see. Like full tracking to the left. You can sidewalk it to the right and sometimes. Only sometimes. Very good tracking. And it's -13. But when it hits you, you're in the chainsaw situation I was talking about. The same situation 1-1 or I was saying 1-2 chainsaw. The big difference is, in this situation she's +8 instead of +5 or +6. That means you can't actually interrupt back 2. This will counter hit you, no matter what you do, unless you do a power push. So be very careful when it comes to that. You missed the 1-1 duck, be careful to take your frames. Yes. You do not duck this on block, right? This is -3 with pushback. So be very careful when it comes to challenging this. Very, very careful. So the Alisa player can just backdash down forward 2 or sidestep either way, or just do a 4 or anything. -3 is not a lot. And of course, ideally you do want to duck it. Because you duck it, launch it. Ideally that's what's gonna happen. Yeah. Long range mid poke. Ah, back 1. Gotcha, gotcha. This is one of the best mid pokes Alisa has. And this one I call a Mishima killer more or less. Because this is 15 frames fast, +8. I think it's -5. -5. So very, very good move. And the most important quality it has, it high crushes. There we go. Right? Oh. There we go. It's high crushing. Of course, it doesn't immediately start. Nothing does, but it has high crushing frames. Not only on its startup, but also on its whiff. Because what happens when back 1 hits or gets blocked is that Alisa is ducking. And this happens always. Like this, for example. On whiff, I try to jab. High crush. So the main reason I called it a Mishima killer, because you can't electric this on whiff. It's impossible. It recovers pretty well. And there's high crushing. So you can't electric it. Very hard for Mishimas to actually punish that. Unless you're Heihachi. Just down 4 to 1 2. So back 1, if you get hit by it, you are in a mix-up. And of course, you're in a full crouch mix-up. Because she is crouched. So common options while staying 4, which will check literally everything. You get hit, you can't do anything about this. You can't press, you can't move, you can backdash but you just block it. Common option. While staying 1, same thing, you can't do anything about this. Of course, if they do while staying 1 2, you got duck it, but that's just string knowledge, right? I don't want to talk about that. Most common options though, outside of the checks, is the full crouch mix, which I already talked about like 2 times, right? So either this, not that one, the fast one, or this one. Be very careful when it comes to that. You just have to be very aware that after back 1, she is crouched, and she can do that. Of course, she can also hop kick. Everything with that forward input, right? She can't do those things. But just be aware that that's most likely what's gonna happen. Okay. What was that? What else? Oh, down forward 1 string. I forgot. Like, her down forward 1 is very strong. So not only, I already talked about this, right? It tracks to one side very well. Sidestep left. You can like sidestep to the right. And its frames, let's talk about that as well. It's -6. Like the frames at the one glance doesn't seem that good. But why is it -6? It's -6 because of the follow-ups it has. This follow-up right here. For example. But this is a mid-mid. You can't do anything about this. You can't step it. You can't interrupt it. You counter it. Right? Possible. And on block, it's safe. -9. So very good. The one thing you can do about this, which I would not recommend, but I guess I'll tell you guys just so you know. You can power crush through it. Like that. Either power crush or a rage art. You can do it. But I would not recommend it because, you know, at least a player can just do a down forward 1 to sidestep. Or just down forward 1 and block your power crush. But it's possible. Definitely possible. The other extension she has is down forward 1, I think. Yep. Which is plus. So if you don't duck this, a lot of people think that they can press after it, right? Because it doesn't look plus, but it's actually plus. It's +1. But get very careful when it comes to challenging Alisa or doing like a down forward 1. Because if the Alisa player decides to do this, your down forward 1 will get countered. And try to do a down forward 1. There you go. Of course your jabs will beat it. Maybe. Let me see if this will high crush. It won't. Okay. But still, you're in -1 situation. Her jabs will beat yours as well. Be very careful when it comes to that. And the down forward 1 is strong because of that mind game. Because it's -6. And but it has an extension, you're still frozen there, you don't want to press anything. Because you're expecting this. Most of the time you're expecting that. Okay. What else? I guess I should talk about down 4 as well. Some Alisa players like doing down 4 because it deals good damage, it's 15 damage, it's fast. But you have to realize that this is -5 on hit. So whenever this hits you, it's your turn again. You can press anything you want, unless it's a 13 framer, which will trade with power crushes. But the 13 framer is still a very good option. Because if you force them to use a power crush there, it's not that bad, right? But it is your turn. -5. But Alisa players, beware of that, like to sidestep or backdash after it. So be sure to use an option that will not be backdash. So it's this into backdash. I'll try to do that again. Like, do an option that will not be easily backdashed. I messed up the backdash, but you get what I mean. But usually, it's not that big of a problem because this actually pushes Alisa forward. So you're very close to her, most of the time. But then comes the mind game of down for 1+2. Right? Which is plus. This is plus on block. And if you do decide to like press, like a down forward to 1, I'm trying to down forward to 1. Right. You will get countered, but it has to be delayed, wait. There we go. Does it jail all the time? There we go. I was trying to look for that. If you delay it correctly, if the Alisa player does this correctly, it becomes a mini mind game. But it's not that scary since it's not a counter launcher. Oh, and the most important thing is, of course, if you see this coming, you duck it, even on hit, right? Launch it. But the most important thing is down 4 on block. -16. Not a lot of people know this move is launch punishable. Not only can you launch it with while standing 2, you can hop kick it. Also, you can while standing 2 as well, 16 frames, stuff like that. This move, launch punishable. If you do block it, try to launch it. Of course, it's scary because of this, right? Something like this can happen. But the risk reward is going to be always in your favor here. If they do like to use down 4. Okay. What else to talk about? Like, the mind games Alisa has is basically, as long as she's not too close and not too much minus, she can always move. And this goes for all characters with decent movement. Like after down forward to 1s, she can just move very easily. Or after like down forward 4, even though it's minus, right? It's -7. Because of this little pushback, the mind game is strong because one backdash can make a lot of things with. And down forward 4 is a very good mid poke Alisa has, 12 frame mid. I think that's about it when it comes to mind games. So in the end, to finish this off, let's talk about the rage situation. Not player, opponent. There we go. So when the Alisa player has rage, most of the time the Alisa player will create some sort of distance like this, right? Be a little bit far away, and then use the rage drive. Something like that. This is very common. They won't do like come close to use the rage drive. This is uncommon. It can happen, but it's not as common. Most of the time they will create space, try to bait you in, and then throw this out. So let's talk about this rage drive. This is +1 for Alisa. So usually when you block this, you are in minus, even if the Alisa player does not go into stance. But the Alisa player also has the option to go into stance like this. Mix you up from a stance. So the options she has is either this or this, which are the most common ones. Of course, you can also do this, but the most common ones are those two. But this can also happen. So this is a mid-mid-mid after a rage drive, which will basically check you. Actually, it's just this. They don't use the third one. There you go. Because this is safe. They won't use the third one, they will only use 2. So this will check you if you try to do anything. So be very careful when it comes to that. And of course there's the low mix-up. Damn it. Just that. You try to retaliate with the jab. or anything, to be honest, this will counter it. But if you block it, it's minus 14. And we all know for Miguel, that means it's a launch. Normally it's not launch, but for Miguel, it is. Game. And yeah, the mid option, I always forgot, which is this. So this basically serves as a mix-up to that low, more or less. This will also check you if you try to press anything. But it's minus. Now this move, this looks like it's plus for Alisa. Because your character's like slunched back. It looks like it's plus, basically. But it's minus for Alisa, minus 8. You are plus here, so you can actually take back your turn. But now I have to talk about the situation when this rage drive whiffs, which can happen pretty often. The best thing you can do here is when this whiffs, you do a power crush. You have to be ready for this. When it comes to 2-hit rage drives, you have to be ready for the whiff. One of the options is a parry, of course. But if you don't have a parry, at least power crush. You'll always be able to punish that rage drive. If you have enough HP, of course. If you don't have enough HP, then, you know, don't try it. It's the same with Miguel's rage drive. If the first one whiffs, you can power crush the second one. Exactly the same concept. Okay. 2-3. This string, right? This can be pretty annoying as well. I think there's another string that can be annoying. But this is like knowledge checking with strings, right? So this is minus 10. It's a mind game to it. If you do punish this, there's also this. Right? And it's countered launcher. But this is a very basic string mind game. Because you can't really do anything about this. It's actually pretty strong in my opinion. So this is minus 10. You have to guess either punish this with 10 frames, or if you guess wrong, you get counter launched by this. But this ender is minus 11. Which is pretty dumb. I don't know why it's minus 11. It should be more than that, but it is what it is. And when it comes to string like this, more or less it's a mind game. While staying 1? Oh, you mean while staying 1? This one right here? This is also the same kind of situation. Like while staying 1 is minus 12, but most of the time it's better to just duck this and launch that. Most of the time. Because if you do try to punish the first one, let's say you punish the first one, right? You actually get launched for that. So most of the time it's better to duck it. But if they do like to do just one standing once, maybe sometimes punish it, but you have to know it's very risky. If you do punish it, it's very risky. That's a lot of damage you're giving them. Like this. Into, I don't know, something like this. Maybe just this. I don't know the combo, right? I think it's just 4. Something like that. This will deal a lot of damage. Let me check it. Decent damage, so you're just taking a lot of risk there. Be aware of that. You'll most likely eat like 80 damage there, most likely. I can't do the combo, I don't know the combo, but most likely that'll happen. Also, I think there's another string that Alisa has. Not this one. That's really good to do. But I forgot the input for it. Like, it's similar to this in a way, but it's like another one. another 3-hit string, but I think... Yeah, forward 2, there we go. This is what I'm talking about. So I'll cover this and that'll be it. 4, 2, 3, 3. So this is another string that has a mind game to it. So this is -10, right? You can't really sidestep it. See this? It's very similar to the 2-3-1. You block this, you just have to punish it. You can't even power crush through it. I think you can parry it, but Miguel can't really parry it. So this is the same kind of mind game as the 2-3-1. More or less. Because this is a high, right? Of course you can always duck it. Launch it. But most people don't do that for very simple reasons, which is this move right here. So you're kind of forced to respect forward 2. You don't duck it because this will hit you, and this is a wall bounce, by the way. Let me showcase it. Damn it. There we go, that's a wall bounce. That's gonna be a lot of damage. So you're forced to respect forward 2 and not duck it. Because if you do duck it, that will hit you. If you don't duck it, then this might be an issue. Oh, by the way, I forgot to mention. This is natural. I almost forgot to mention, that's very important. You can't move after it either. See that? This is a very, very strong mind game. Very strong mind game. Because if you try to move after forward 2, this is basically guaranteed, and the second and the third hit ends a wall bounce. So you're forced to respect this. This on block is -4. What does that mean? -4, you're forced to respect it. Mind game situation, right? And it's a very strong mind game situation. Because one thing they can do is, of course, stay in normal stance, mix you up with all that, maybe full crouch mix up, stuff like that. They have options. But the scary part is the chainsaw stance. Because you're forced to respect it, they'll basically go chainsaw and tell you, guess. Because one, you can't step after it, as I already said. This will catch you. Any kind of movement that will catch, you'll get wall bounced. They'll go and chainsaw, be like you're standing there frozen, because as I said, you can't move there. They'll be do this, do this, do this, you know, all the good chainsaw stuff I already mentioned. And unlike those situations, you can't actually step them, because as I said, you cannot step after 4-2. So very, very strong mind game here. Of course, if you risk it and either press or step, you can interrupt this and just interrupt the chainsaw stance. With a jab or something fast, maybe a dick jab. But be careful, you are taking a risk. Especially when it comes to this. You're taking a big, massive risk. Of course you can dick jab, option select for this. But then you're taking a risk for the mid, because you can't dick jab this. So you don't really have an option select. So 4-2 mind game, very strong. Not enough Alisa players use this, to be honest. But this is why it's so strong. Amazing, amazing mind game, an amazing move in general. But yeah, I think that's it, right? I'm glad that there aren't a lot of Alisa players that use 4-2 in the way that I just described it. But thank you for watching, YouTube. Big, big thank you. I'll see you guys later.